Welcome to my in-service. Today we will be going over how to complete a bronchial wash. I just like to introduce myself. I'm Jess. I am a tech at Benefice, and I decided to do a bronchial wash culture setup because it is something that we struggle with in my laboratory to get right 100% of the time. So just a quick reminder on how to complete a bronchial wash. The first step is receiving that specimen. It's going to come to our microbiology lab. We're going to scan it into Epic. We are going to compare the paper order to the order that is in the computer, making sure that there is enough of the, making sure that the specimen gets to everywhere that it needs to go. The next step in completion of the bronch lavage is going to be removing those plates from the refrigerator if needed and allowing them time to warm to room temperature. Next, you're going to look at the volume of the specimen and determine if it is enough for the tests that are ordered, and contact that provider if we need more specimen or if he has tests that he's willing to cancel, and like a priority list of what he wants to do. And then if we're lucky enough to have enough specimen or excess, we get to centrifuge that down and concentrate it so that we get a better culture. Next step is going to be labeling that media, making sure that it is at room temperature, and ensuring that send-outs, pathology, any other department that might have a sample, might have a need for that sample, has a container. And finally, we're going to write the stain, write the label for the gram stain. It's important on that to include 2 different identifiers as well as the specimen number. So I included here a couple of different containers that might be what our bronchial lavage comes in. It might be more like what we typically see, like a urine container, just a sterile cylinder. But oftentimes it is this mucus catch that we're getting for our bronch lavages with a nice clear container volume. And it is important that if we have the opportunity to concentrate that specimen down, that we do so. So if it is greater than 15 mils, we are going to be putting it into one of these 2 sterile containers and making sure that it is labeled, and then centrifuging it down. If we have less than 20 mils, we're going to put it in the smaller of the 2. If we have less than 60 mil or 20 to 60 mils, it's going to go in that larger one. We're going to put on our safety caps, centrifuge, and then we're going to pour off the supernate after it comes out of the centrifuge, and then vortex for at least 15 seconds to resuspend that specimen. If we didn't have enough to centrifuge, we would meet back at this step where we're vortexing that specimen. Next step is going to be inoculating our plates. So in that, we are going to have our culture plate. In the bronch lavage specimen, we have a chocolate plate, a McConkey plate, and a blood plate. My favorite for bronchial lavages is to dip a sterile Q-tip into that bronch lavage specimen and then roll it around in filling up that first quadrant with that Q-tip. I like to take the Q-tip then and do the gram stain slide last because it is not sterile. So then I pull out my sterile loop and it's gotten a chance to set into this media a little bit. So I'm going to dip into that loop 1, 2 times, and then I'm going to fill up my second quadrant. I'm going to do the same things for the 3rd and 4th quadrant. Dip, dip, 3rd quadrant, dip, dip, 4th quadrant. So we have a beautiful inoculation plate, and all 3 of our plates are going to look that way. We also will include on our blood plate a P disc. We're not going to touch this with our fingers, but we're going to sterilely place it onto the first quadrant so that we can get that identification and step in for our culture readers. So after we've inoculated our plate, it is time to do our gram stain. We're going to fix that on the heat block for approximately 2 minutes, and then we're going to perform a gram stain procedure. That includes the application of the crystal violet. That includes rinsing that off, applying the iodine, rinsing that off, applying the alcohol quickly, rinsing that off with water, and then finally applying the saffron. Now that we have a beautiful gram stain ready to read, it is important to quantify leukocytes, epithelial cells, and organisms if seen. We want to make sure that we do this quickly and get the turnaround time as low as possible for the gram stain, because this helps our provider treat the patient and is a guiding step in the care. Just a couple things that could be ordered on a bronchial lavage to keep in mind. That chocolate plate could be a quantitative culture. So if we're getting a quantitative culture on that plate, we're doing 1,000 times and 100 times loop to do a lot of growth on those plates. I'm going to go back to my inoculation and show you those quick. A lot of growth is going to look like our plate with that special calibrated loop down the middle. And then the way we do a lot of growth at my laboratory is all the way, turn the plate 90 degrees. So essentially starting up at the top again, turn the plate 90 degrees, and then one final lot of growth. It's important to note that the bigger loop is going to be that times 100, or the 0.01 size. The smaller loop is going to be the times 1,000, or 0.001 size. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions about the bronch lavage, please always refer to your laboratory's procedure. Hopefully you are able to get all the answers that you need there, and hopefully this in-service was a quick reminder on how to inoculate a bronchial lavage specimen. Thanks for your time.